Nobody sat you down and said, here's how to stay broke. They didn't have to. It came in quieter than that. Through dinner table conversations and report cards. Through a dad who never talked about money except when there wasn't enough. Through a mom who said, we can't afford that, and moved on. Through a school that taught you the French Revolution but never taught you compound interest. And the strange thing is, most of those lessons felt like wisdom at the time. They weren't malicious. They were just wrong in ways that compound quietly over decades. By 32, a guy named Marcus had done everything right by those rules. Steady job, no credit card debt. Savings account with $4,200 sitting untouched. He felt responsible. He felt safe. He was actually falling behind without knowing it. That's the specific danger here. Not the lies that feel like lies, the ones that feel like virtue. So let's start with the first one, and it's the one almost everyone inherited. Save your money. Full stop. No context, no destination. On the surface, that sounds like the most responsible thing an adult can say to a child, but saving without a purpose is just organized procrastination with a better feeling. A dollar sitting in a standard savings account earning 0.01% APR in a 4% inflation year is losing ground. Not dramatically, not visibly, just quietly every single month. The lie isn't saving is bad. Saving is necessary. The lie is that saving alone is a financial strategy. It's a starting point. People who treat it as the finish line often wake up at 58 wondering where the decades went. Second lie. A good job equals financial security. That one was built for a different economy. One where a man worked 30 years at one company and got a pension. That economy is largely gone. Most people under 45 have already had 3 or 4 employers. Layoffs happen at profitable companies now. That's not cynicism, that's recent history. Security built entirely on one income source is structurally fragile no matter how good the salary looks. Some people earning $9,400 a year are one layoff away from missing rent. Not because they're irresponsible, because they were never taught to build anything parallel to the job. Third lie. Debt is shameful. Avoid it completely. A man who grew up watching his father pay cash for everything once told me he refused every credit card until he was 29. He thought he was being disciplined. His credit score said otherwise. When he tried to rent an apartment in Chicago, his application got rejected twice before he understood why. Not all debt is the same animal. High-interest consumer debt at 24% APR is a slow bleed. A mortgage at a fixed low rate, used wisely, is a different mechanism entirely. The lie isn't, debt is fine. The lie is that all debt is morally equivalent. Understanding that distinction is worth more than any single financial product. Fourth lie. Rich people are just lucky, or they cheated. This one's interesting because sometimes it's true, and sometimes it's a defense mechanism. The part that's true, inherited wealth, timing, and certain advantages are real and they matter. The part that becomes a trap, using that truth to stop examining how money actually moves. If you believe the system is purely rigged, you never study the mechanics. And the mechanics are learnable, not easy, not guaranteed, but learnable. How money compounds, how taxes work differently at different income levels, how assets generate income without your hours attached. These are not secrets, they're just things most classrooms never touched. Fifth lie. Investing is for wealthy people, or Wall Street types. A 24-year-old who puts aside $200 a month into a broadly diversified portfolio and leaves it alone for 35 years is doing something statistically more powerful than someone who waits until 40 and invests $800 a month. The math on this is not motivational content. It's just how compounding works over time. The lie was never about the stock market being exclusive. The lie was about the minimum entry point. Most platforms today have no minimum. The barrier was always psychological, not financial. But here's the pattern interrupt, and this one genuinely surprises people. The lie that has probably cost more people more money than any other isn't about saving or investing. It's 3 words most people heard before they were 10 years old. Money isn't everything. Nobody's arguing that money is everything. That's not the point. The point is what that phrase did to you emotionally before you understood money at all. It taught you to feel slightly guilty for wanting financial stability. It created a subconscious association between caring about money and being a bad person. So you didn't study it, you didn't track it, you felt above it, and then life handed you a $1,400 rent bill, a $340 car insurance renewal, and a medical deductible you forgot existed. Suddenly, money isn't everything, doesn't feel like wisdom. It feels like something that left you unprepared. The truth is closer to this. Money is not the purpose, but it is the infrastructure. You can't be present for your family when you're drowning in a $280 overdraft fee at 11 p.m. on a Tuesday. Seventh lie. If you work hard enough, the money will come. Hard work is necessary. It is not sufficient. A man stacking shelves at $17 an hour works brutally hard. A fund manager sitting in a climate-controlled office making $340,000 a year works differently, not necessarily harder. The missing variable isn't effort, it's leverage. What your hours are attached to and what multiplies them. Hard work inside the wrong structure stays hard work. That's not motivational, that's mechanical. Eighth lie, you should always buy, never rent. Renting is throwing money away. This one got repeated so often it started sounding like physics. In certain markets, at certain life stages, with certain mobility needs, renting is the sharper financial decision. A guy who bought a $480,000 house in 2021 in a city he left 2 years later learned this the uncomfortable way. Transaction costs, closing fees, and a flat market meant he walked away with less than he started with. Homeownership builds equity over time in the right conditions. It is not universally superior to renting in all conditions. The lie isn't don't buy property. The lie is that one path is always smarter regardless of your specific numbers. Ninth lie. Talking about money is rude or private. This cultural norm protected nobody except people who already understood money. When nobody talks about salaries, the people underpaid stay underpaid longer. When nobody discusses what things actually cost, therapy, investing, insurance, tax strategy, the knowledge stays concentrated. A 27-year-old who finds out her colleague doing identical work earns $1,100 more per year because he asked around. That silence cost her real money. Transparency about money in the right contexts is not crass. It is informational. 10th lie. You're either good with money or you're not. It's just how some people are wired. This is the most damaging one because it makes the whole subject feel like personality rather than skill. Nobody says you're either good at driving or you're not, and then refuses to teach teenagers. Money behavior is largely learned, largely habitual, and largely changeable with the right framework. The research on this is fairly consistent. People who track their spending change their spending, almost automatically. Not because tracking is magic, but because most overspending happens in the gap between what people think they spend and what they actually spend. That gap, for the average household, is often somewhere between $400 and $900 a month. Not on luxuries, on subscriptions they forgot, on food delivery markups, on insurance they never renegotiated. So here's where all 10 of these land together. You were handed a map drawn by people who loved you but were working with incomplete information. That map got you to adulthood. It was not designed to get you to financial clarity. The upgrade isn't about discipline or sacrifice. It's about replacing inherited assumptions with tested ones. Marcus, the guy from the beginning, he eventually figured this out at 34. He didn't get rich overnight. He started tracking, started asking, started treating money like a system instead of a moral test. 2 years later, his net worth had moved more than in the previous decade combined, not because he worked harder, because he stopped operating on outdated instructions. So one honest question before you close this: which of these 10 did you grow up believing most completely? That's not rhetorical. The answer tells you something specific about where your friction with money actually comes from. One realistic thing you can do this week: write down 3 money beliefs you absorbed before age 15. Then ask yourself, did someone teach me that deliberately, or did I just absorb it quietly? If this helped you see something you hadn't named before, the next one goes even deeper into how money psychology actually shapes the decisions you think are logical. Money is not a personality trait. It is a skill set. And skill sets can be built.